Hi, good afternoon, and welcome back to the College Success Mastery Virtual Summit 2020. I'm Joey Ban from Edu Experts, your host at this summit. Let's see. Okay, we've got quite a number of participants already. Let's get going. In this session, we've got Sphie Lutz. She's an American national who has spent the last 6 years working in Japan. She currently serves as International Liaison at Kyoto University of Advanced Science. Her main focus is supporting international students and international development at the university, aiming to make studying in Japan a more accessible experience for students from overseas. Her seminar will give students an overview of what it's like to study engineering in English at an institution in Japan. So let's welcome the one and only Sphie Lutz onto the summit. Hi, Sphie.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you
Hi.
for coming onto our summit. So, we've got quite a number of participants watching on
Yeah.
today, and we are eager to learn from you. So, without further ado, I will hand over the session to you, Sphie.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for coming. Welcome, and thank you for attending my presentation today. So, as you know, today's topic is Engineering Your Future, an English taught engineering degree in Japan. So, let me open up my presentation here for you. Just a moment. Okay. Are you all able to see the presentation clearly? Okay, well, I'll get started now. Anyway, I was planning to introduce myself, but Joey was kind enough to do so for me. Anyway, I'll just add a little bit extra. So in addition to serving as international liaison at Kyoto University of Advanced Science, I also do a lot of Japanese to English translation. I've been studying Japanese language for almost 15 years. And that's another thing that I'm very passionate about. So if you're interested in that, please feel free to ask me about it later. Anyway, today I will give an overview of what it's like to study engineering in English at an institution in Japan, as well as talking about why you should do so. Today's main topics, one is why study in Japan, then why study engineering, an overview of what it is like to study at an English taught engineering program in Japan, and questions and answers. Okay, so first of all, why should you study in Japan? There are, of course, many different countries you could go to instead. So what prompted you to look into Japan? Culture, food, architecture, anime, games, future job opportunities? Actually, now if you are able to, could you please type in the chat what made you interested in Japan? Okay. Oh, you love Japan too, great. Anyone else? What made you interested in Japan? The weather. Yeah, the weather is really good here. We have 4 seasons, get to enjoy a whole lot of different nice things. Oh, food? Great, me too. I also really love the food here. Oh, it's a very safe country. Yes, that's right. I enjoy that too. Culture. Oh, I do as well. I really love the architecture, culture, job opportunities. Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for your answers. For me, I always enjoyed learning Japanese words and writing Japanese kanji characters. And I also always love the food, architecture, and games as well. So if you're still on the fence about whether or not you'd like to study in Japan, I'd like to talk a little bit more about why you should consider it. So next, here are a few important points about Japan. So number one is the world-class educational standards. So the biggest appeal of studying abroad in Japan is the opportunity to learn about cutting-edge technology and science. Japan is a world leader in the field of science and recently has been producing Nobel laureates nearly every year. The automobiles, digital cameras, fiber optics, artificial hearts, and products that Japan's scientific and technological prowess generates are recognized around the world. Many of these products become an essential part of people's lives. Japanese educational institutions do not just develop your academic abilities, they also instill personal values such as proper behavior in relationships and respecting others that will help students once they enter the real world. This earns high praise from international students. And two, affordable academic fees. Academic fees in Japan are much lower than in the United States or United Kingdom. In fact, tuition at Japan's national universities is about 1/3 that of public universities in the United States. There are also various financial support programs for international students in Japan, including scholarships, tuition reductions, and waivers. Third, international environment. Around 300,000 international students from around 180 regions and countries are now studying at Japanese universities, Japanese language institutions, and other schools here. Strong continued economic growth has made Asia one of the world's hottest economic regions in recent years. Studying abroad in Japan offers you the chance to learn not just about Japan, but also about the whole world. In addition, more and more Japanese institutions are offering degree programs in English, so the need to learn Japanese before coming does not become a barrier. And last, many employment opportunities. So Japan is hiring more and more talented international students, regardless of their nationality. They energize their organizations with diverse thinking and perspectives and serve as international go-betweens. So Japan has many blue chip companies with world-beating technology and top market shares. These include major corporations as well as small and medium-sized companies. Working in Japan can be a great opportunity to accumulate knowledge and experience that will help your future. So let's take a closer look at some good points about Japan. They have a stable economy. Their GDP is number 3 in the world. They're very well known for being healthy. They have the longest life expectancy. Japan is technologically advanced. They're famous for their computers and robots. They boast a unique culture, such as the tea ceremonies or flower arranging. It's a very wealthy country with their gross national income at number 3 in the world. They have delicious cuisine, such as sushi, ramen, udon, and best of all, it's incredibly safe. It's considered the safest country in the world. Next, here's an overview of Japanese universities. So most students choose to go to university for 4 years. There are 768 universities in total in Japan. And if you look at this chart below, you can see that 589 of those are private universities. So those are by far the more common type. Next, this chart shows the number of students and international students in Japan. As you can see, this since 2011 to 2012, there has been a huge increase in international students. In the chart on the right, you can see that many students from Malaysia also choose to come. Students from Malaysia are at number 10 in the most amount of international students coming to Japan. So many Japanese universities are starting to offer all English programs at both top type universities like the University of Tokyo, and type B global traction type universities like International University of Japan. So it's becoming a lot more common, not just in the most famous universities, but also in the smaller universities as well. So I tried to list the programs available in English that are taught in Japan, but there were, of course, just way too many to fit on one slide. Anyway, some include humanities, cultural studies, engineering, and more. So if you want to see a full list of all of the programs that are available to study in English in Japan, you can go to jasso.go.jp, which is listed below. If you just Google JASSO, Jasso, their website will come up and you can see every English degree available at every university in Japan. So I highly recommend going there if you're interested in seeing if like one specific major is offered. Next, there are also many world-class and prominent manufacturers in Japan, such as Nintendo, Honda, Panasonic, and more. So since the population in Japan is decreasing steadily each year, companies are looking to hire more international workers. More than ever, international students have a great shot at getting work in Japan. So you may be wondering what requirements there are to be a student in Japan. So here are a list of 6 things that you will need. 1 is valid passport. 2 is a visa application form from the Japanese embassy or consulate. 3, 1 photograph taken within the past 3 months. 4, a certificate of eligibility or a COE. And this document is the COE. What is it and why do I need it? Basically, the certificate of eligibility is a document issued by a regional immigration authority to show that the person applying meets the basic conditions for landing in Japan. So basically, it's a preliminary visa screening process and the step before actual applying for a student visa to get into Japan. So the Japanese government approves the COE and the local consulate approves the visa, which is a little bit of a complicated process, but just know that you will need that document. And also a certificate of admission given to you by the school that you've been accepted at, as well as other additional documents the specific consulate may ask you for depending on the country. So those are the requirements needed for a student visa in Japan. Next, I would like to talk about the things that you can do to get the best out of your time living here in Japan. So if you do come to Japan, what would you like to do? I have a few recommendations. Of course, this is once the coronavirus settles down and it's safe again, but I highly recommend traveling around Japan. There are so many interesting cities and shrines to see. There's snowy Hokkaido in the north and tropical Okinawa in the south. Japan is very accessible with affordable trains and plane flights. My personal favorite place is Okinawa Island. It's surprisingly close and not expensive. It's also very easy to travel around Southeast Asia from Japan. So there's just a huge option. There's a whole lot of options for different places you can visit if you're living in Japan. Another great way to enjoy your time in Japan is to join a club at your university. So there are a number of traditional clubs like dance and calligraphy shown here, but also there's many sports clubs and art and music clubs. This is one of the best ways to make friends and also practice your Japanese once you arrive here. You'd be surprised at what sort of unique clubs they also offer at some of the universities as well. Arguably, one of the best things about living in Japan is the food. There are so many unique dishes that you can only get in Japan. And if you love sushi like I do or other Japanese foods, you'll be happy to find that you can get them easily and at very affordable prices. Next, I would like to talk about where to study. 2 popular destinations in Japan are Tokyo and Kyoto. Tokyo is, of course, the current capital of Japan, while Kyoto is the ancient capital. They are both really great cities. Kyoto is more traditional, while Tokyo is more modern. Kyoto has many students, while Tokyo has many working people. Kyoto is a medium-sized city, while Tokyo is a really, really huge city. And Kyoto has a modest cost of living, while Tokyo has a really high cost of living. Kyoto has easy access to Osaka, Kobe, Nagoya, and Tokyo has easy access to Yokohama and Chiba. So they're both really great cities, but the more student-friendly option would be Kyoto. So why Kyoto? One student from the Study Kyoto website writes, the biggest factor when comparing Tokyo and Kyoto in terms of living conditions would be the rental fee for an apartment. Considering the room size, surrounding environment, and the distance to school, the apartment rental fee has a big gap. So for example, one person living within the 23 Tokyo wards can range from about the $600 to $900. And to reduce this cost, many students in Tokyo live in suburban areas, which requires them to commute by train for like 1 or 2 hours, or they might share a room with a friend. In my case, I was living inside the 23 wards, but the scenery outside my window was a wall and electrical wires. By contrast, in Kyoto, the rent is relatively cheap, in the range of around 300 to 500 US dollars. Within this price range in Kyoto, it's possible to live near campus and also to have a great view from your window. So you might be wondering what estimated living costs might be. These are just estimates, but I hope that this chart will give you a basic idea of how much things might cost. And these are estimates based on living in Kyoto City. So rent and utilities maybe cost about 350 to 600, electricity, gas, water, 80 to 100 US dollars, cell phone and internet, maybe 60 to 90 US dollars. National health insurance fee is about the $17, very inexpensive. Meals would probably be around 200, 250 US dollars. And entertainment, maybe 200, 300 US dollars. So you're looking at maybe a monthly total of 900 US dollars to 1,200 US dollars estimated living costs per month. Also, about Kyoto is they have, okay, so sorry, I just look at this ratio for a moment. This ratio shows the number of students in Kyoto. So 1 out of 10 people in Kyoto is a student. So their population looks something like this. Kyoto has a total of 34 universities and 12 junior colleges. There are a lot of places to choose from. Kyoto also has really rich culture, making it possible to experience traditional Japan here, especially through the many festivals held, such as Gion Matsuri in the summertime and Jidai Matsuri in the fall time. So there's really a whole lot of interesting things to experience in Kyoto. Also, if Kyoto is home to 17 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, there are more than 1,600 temples and 400 shrines in the city, so you won't run out of beautiful places to visit. Also, it's a great place if you enjoy anime and manga. There are anime studios based in Kyoto, and there's also an entire manga library. You can go in and read and relax and just read manga all day there if you like. Also, Kyoto is home to many of the world-class manufacturing and electronics companies that I mentioned earlier. This means that there's a large number of companies that you could possibly work at after graduating that are right near you. Okay, now that I've talked a whole lot about Japan, I'd like to talk about engineering. So why should you consider studying engineering? Are you already decided to study engineering? Do you just have a little interest? Are you not sure at all? Can you put in the chat whether you're certain you want to study engineering or if you're just like a little interested in engineering? I'm curious to know how much interest you all have in the subject. Exploring, curious to know more about it. Okay, anyone else? Unsure at the moment. Okay, great. Well, it sounds like some of you are still thinking about whether you want to study engineering or not. And so that's really great because I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about why it's such a good field to consider. Okay, So first of all, engineers are always in high demand. This quote says, engineers have a role in creating a variety of structures and products, from airports to zippers. If that sounds intriguing, consider a career in engineering. The US Bureau of Labor Statistics projects employment growth for these workers with nearly 140,000 new jobs expected for engineers over the 2016 to 26 decade. So that is a lot of jobs that are going to be available in, well, right now and also in the coming years. So engineers are really in high demand right now. Also, engineers have a very high salary. In 2016, engineers had a median annual wage of this amount, $91,000, which is more than twice the median wage for all workers. So these are the median pay amounts for different types of engineers. For example, 2019 median pay for a civil engineer is about 87,000 per year, whereas for a mechanical engineer, it's about 88,000 per year, whereas, oh, sorry about that. Median pay for an electrical engineer is even higher at 100,000 per year. So what exactly do engineers do? This is definitely something that I wondered before in the past. Well, civil engineers, for example, design, build, and supervise infrastructure projects and systems. Mechanical engineers design, develop, build, and test mechanical and thermal sensors and devices. Whereas electrical engineers design, develop, test, and supervise the manufacture of electrical equipment. So all of these are extremely important things to society, and people who can do these things are always, always needed. So next, I would like to give an overview of what it is like to study at an English-taught engineering program in Japan. So I would like to give an example using Kyoto University of Advanced Science. We're a private university located in Kyoto City, Japan. Our program's focus is mechanical and electrical systems engineering. So, for example, at our university, there are all English courses. The entire curriculum is taught in English. We have a practical program, multidisciplinary engineering classes, team-based projects, and capstone programs to be prepared for real-world industry problems. We offer intensive Japanese classes, which provides all international students with intensive Japanese language courses to broaden their career path, and also career support, which provides exceptional support and opportunities for students seeking careers in Japan or internationally through its strong ties with a wide variety of industries. So these are the type of things that students study at our engineering program. These subjects, such as mechanics, energy, robotics, and electromagnetics, are all part of a bigger field called mechanical and electrical system engineering. So this includes the 13 subjects that are listed in the illustration on the left. So I think some of the more popular ones to study would probably be like energy or robotics or drones. So how is the job market for these particular subjects? If you study these subjects after graduation, you can immediately and actively be involved in a broad and widely expanding range of industries, including robots, drones, automotives, mechatronics, heavy industry, chemistry, trading, information, and motors. So all of the things listed in the right side here. You can also go on to graduate school if you wish to further your studies. So this chart here shows an example of our curriculum for first-year students. So if you choose to study engineering in Japan, these are sort of the kind of classes that you would be taking in your first year. For example, students will take Japanese language while the rest of their classes are in English. They'll take a startup lecture, mathematics and physics, MATLAB training before enrollment, and then also introduction to design. Here's some more details about what the classes are like. So for example, with the Japanese classes, they tend to be smaller size classes with about 15 people in it. And they are supposed to cover all of these points that are listed here, like master minimum Japanese language ability to work at Japanese company, so vocabulary, conversation, reading, writing, grammar, business, newspaper reading, and then eventually academic paper reading. And then also students will, of course, study mathematics and physics. But all of these lectures are also followed by doing exercises, so practical exercises. And at our university, they tend to do about 150% more compared to other Japanese universities. And here's some more details of what like the startup lecture is like. So the startup lecture and intro to design and numerical analysis programming, these basically are so that students can acquire basic skills necessary for university study, find problems in daily life. Problem solving basically is what the startup lecture is about. And introduction to design, it helps students, stimulate students' intellectual curiosity to motivate them for study at university. So this is a pretty fun class because students get to select between working with robotic devices, including Lego Mindstorms, or embedded devices using microcontrollers, or mobile applications using integrated development. So this is more like a hands-on type, lab type lecture. So lastly, introduction to numerical analysis programming. Acquire essential programming knowledge and skills that are needed for basic problem solving using MATLAB. Okay, so next I would like to talk about a capstone program. So different universities are going to have different capstone programs. I'll give you an example of what one is like using our universities. So at our university, 2 times during their studies, students will receive a real-life project from a real-life company. And in team of 4, students will work together researching, planning, and analyzing. And then they will present their solution to the company. And then the company will provide their feedback. And we believe that this will be a very practical and useful way for students to learn and be motivated in their capstone project. So by doing a capstone project, it has these outcomes for the students. Students can understand the abilities and knowledge they need to acquire and thus inspired and motivated to study further. Analysis and problem solving abilities will be strengthened. Teamwork and communication skills are fostered. Consciousness of work is raised, and high employment rate is achieved in synergy with personalized career support. So by really working with a real company during your student years really will give you an advantage when you graduate and start to work at a real company if you've had that experience during your undergraduate. Next, here's some examples of the English textbooks you use while studying engineering. Of course, the very important advanced engineering mathematics, which would be, and then also the physics textbook listed here. So these are some of the types of books that you would use while studying at an engineering program. Also, at English-speaking university programs, you can usually expect to have professors from all around the world. At our university, we have globally experienced professors who specialize in many different fields. So, for example, we have professors whose specialization is power devices, or informatics, or remote sensing, or motors. So when you go to study engineering at a university, you can expect to have teachers from all over and who are really, they're specializing in so many different types of subjects. Next, so I'll show you an example of what a university campus in an engineering building environment is like. Here are some pictures of our main campus. So you can see entrance, activity rooms, cafeteria. I hope this just gives you kind of an idea of what, just gives you an idea of what the campus is like. Also here, you can see these are the facilities for the engineering building with the electrical and electronic workshop, learning commons, and laboratories. These are some photos of the inside of the engineering building, including some equipment and library. And here's some photos of the main corridor and some of the study spaces at our university. Also, here's some pictures of our new international student dormitory. Hopefully this gives you an idea of what a dormitory in Japan might look like. Our dormitory was just finished this year in March, so as you can see, it's really brand new. But this is about the size that the dormitories are usually like in Japan. Sometimes they include a shared space like a kitchen, or bathrooms will be shared sometimes. So next, I want to talk a little bit about scholarships. If you happen to be interested in our university, I wanted to let you know that we are offering 100% tuition waivers and 50% tuition reductions and 30% tuition reductions available for high-performing students. And in addition, we also have what's called a super scholarship, which is 100% admission tuition exemption and 1,200, and then this amount of yen per month, so about 100,000 yen monthly personal stipend for the students. So if you are interested, just let me know and I can get you connected afterwards. But in addition to scholarships offered by our school, there are a number of other scholarships geared specifically to international students in Japan. So I've listed 5 of those here, such as the Japanese government MEXT scholarships. Perhaps you've heard of them before. Also, Japan's Student Services Organization, JASO, which I mentioned earlier, they have the list of all of the majors in English on their website. They also offer scholarships. There's also local government and local international association scholarships. There's private foundation scholarships and scholarships available abroad. So I'm sorry, there's so much information listed here on this slide. If you would like to have this later, I would recommend, this is from the JASO website. So once again, just to Google JASSO scholarships and you can find this information very easily. So I really recommend that if you're interested in seeing all the different scholarships available for students, because there are really so many options. This is another helpful resource from JASO, Japan Student Services Organization. They have a student guide to Japan, 2019 to 2020. And this is available on their website and it's extremely useful. They have useful information about why you should study in Japan, planning your studies in Japan, schools and exams, the Japanese educational system, life in Japan, immigration procedures, calculating the cost of studying in Japan, part-time work, and more. So I highly recommend looking at this booklet. It's completely free, and it's available just by Googling JASSO and then like Student Guide to Japan. I highly recommend this resource to you all. Anyway, that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. I have a short questionnaire here if you're able to fill it out, just letting us know how the presentation was and giving a little bit of feedback. If you can use that QR code. And please feel free to contact me at this email address, Lutz, L-U-T-Z Sphie, S-O-P-H-I-E, @kuas.ac.jp. So please feel free to contact me anytime. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Hi, Sophie. Thank you so much for your sharing. Are you able to see the chat box? There are a couple of questions in the chat.
Okay, yeah, let me take a look.
Right.
Okay. Just curious to know about medical sciences in Japan. Okay, medical science in Japan. I think that actually I would have to check that long list that I was talking about from JASO, but I think that there's probably a little bit more limited amount of medical studies available in English in Japan, depending on what you're hoping to go into. So I would recommend that you check out that list that I mentioned here. I'll type JASO English programs. If you Google this, I'm quite sure that it will come up right away. So about the medical sciences in Japan. Thank you for your question. Oh, and Mr. Ibers from Horizon, thank you for your question. So do you think that for international students to be employable in Japan, do they need to excel in their Japanese language skills? Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you very much for a nice question. So, yes, I do think that, well, depending on which type of job you're hoping to go into, having more Japanese ability is, of course, a plus. But I think that in general for engineers, if you can just have basic communication ability, I think that you won't have much trouble finding a good job. If you wanted to go into, say, translating, of course, you would need to have a really high level of Japanese. And so that just depends on the job that you're interested in doing. So I would say that it's always a plus to have more Japanese skills than not. Yeah, but it's not 100% necessary in all cases. Okay, next question. Can students work while they study? Thank you so much for your question. In general, yes, students can apply for a part-time work visa. You have to be approved by the Japanese government. So students can apply for the visa, allows them to work a part-time job, and there's a certain amount of hours that you have to work. You cannot work more than the decided amount of hours, and also there are certain types of jobs that you are not allowed to do, but in general, yes, you can work while studying. So thank you for your question. What is the criteria for the KUAS scholarship? So for our scholarship, you To apply for it, it's very simple. So when you apply for our program, simply apply in the relevant section at the time of the application. So when you're basically to apply for a program, we have a online application process. And when you are applying, you select that you would like to try to get the scholarship, and then you will automatically be put into the pool of people who are also wanting to get the scholarship. And it's a merit-based scholarship, so we select high-performing students who also have like really high mm, like moral standards, like really people who we think are really good examples of students, and also students who are performing well in school. So it is chosen on a merit-based system. So the um, criteria would be that yes, we would be the same criteria as for applying for our school in general, which is you need to have a background in mathematics and physics, and you need to have a certain amount of the English ability to be able to apply for the scholarship. So thank you for your question. Okay, um, is there an internship component in the engineering program? Oh, very good question. So actually at our university, we have a career support center that is currently working on making a lot more internships. And so we're hoping to make some internship programs for our students in the coming years. And also the capstone project is really sort of like an internship in a way, because you're working directly with the company and also getting feedback and really getting sort of like an internship experience in the capstone. But we also have an internship center at our university, so they also are always making new internship programs available for our students. So thank you for that question. Um, how is this program different from any other engineering degrees in the market? Oh, that's a very good question. So let's see. It's one of the very few English engineering programs in Japan, and it's the only one that's based in Kyoto, which is home to many world-class electronics manufacturers, as I mentioned before. And also in our unique capstone program at our university, students will have the opportunity to work directly with some companies and get real work experience during their studies. Also, our program covers 13 different subjects, which is very unique, and our university is the only one that covers so many different subjects in their undergraduate. So it's sort of like a what's the word? Um, Sort of like a liberal arts, like learning about a whole lot of different subjects, which really helps your overall understanding of the subject. So our program is the only engineering program available in English that is formed that way. So students will have a very wide knowledge of many different subjects after graduating from our program. Yeah, thank you for your question. What are some difficulties you faced when studying in Japan, and how did you cope with it? Yeah, so very good question. When I first arrived in Japan, I had studied Japanese back home a little bit, but I definitely wasn't very good at conversation. And so I had a very difficult time at first, but I think, well, probably the best ways to cope with it are to, get involved in like talking with the staff at the university and getting to know them, because there's so many helpful and nice people who are willing to help you get adjusted who are working at the university. And also, as I recommended earlier, like joining a club is such a way to make friends and practice your Japanese. So those are some ways that I coped with when I had some difficulties in Japan. I think that probably number one would be just the really supportive people who work at the university itself. What level of English qualification do students need? Oh, very good question. So students can apply for a English waiver if we do have a certain amount of points that students need for applying to the university. Let me pull that up really quickly. Just a moment, please. Okay. I have the exact points and everything that is necessary. So I'll show you that. But you can also get a waiver if you've had 6 years or more of education in English. Just a moment, please. Okay. Yes, I think that this slide here shows these are English requirements. I hope that this is clear. So we require either the TOEFL or IELTS or PTE of these scores, or we also will accept a student who has received an IB diploma from a program instructed in English or able to prove 6 years of recent education implemented in English. So you can get a waiver request if you're already fluent in English. I hope that makes sense.
All right, okay, thank you, Sophie. I think we've answered all the questions in the chat. So from your personal experience, what's your final advice to our audience here for those who are considering coming to Japan?
Yeah, if you want to come to Japan, I really, really highly recommend it. I've had a really positive experience here for the past 6 years. It's been really, really great to live here, and I recommend that you right now really actively try to find that university that you want to study at and just make it happen, no matter if you're wanting to study engineering or if you decide you want to study something else. I really recommend trying your best to be able to come over, and just studying in another country is such a priceless experience, and I really recommend it to all of you. So yeah, those are my last words of advice, I guess.
Just one more question. I'm curious, because the Japanese come across as very, very hardworking, people.
Yes.
So are you expected to study really hard when you go to a university in Japan?
You know, um, it's sort of funny because it is very true that people are very hardworking and in general, but sort of university is a little bit more relaxed in Japan. It's sort of called, sometimes people refer to it as like the summer vacation of life in,
Really?
in Japan, just because it's a little bit more relaxed than when a lot of, at least for Japanese students, they have to study very hard to get into university, and all through high school, and then they get into university and they can finally join the club that they like and study what they like. And of course you have to work hard, but it's also very fun and just a very good time of life, I think, for people. So I think that's coming for university is really good.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sophie, for coming onto our summit. Thank you to our audience here for your participation and for all your questions. We will close up the session now, and we have our last session at 4:30 Kuala Lumpur time, or 5:30 if you are tuning in from Japan. The last session will be talking about study options in China. Okay, so that will be the last session for this summit. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Sophie. Take
Yeah,
care.
thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Okay, goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.